are Smart City Navigators, a podcast about innovation, sustainability, and new technologies on the market.
This podcast is brought to you by Naviparking. Jakub Sroka is a designer, creator, and artist with over a decade worth of experience in the IT industry. As a chief design officer at Naviparking, he makes sure that customer needs and business goals are translated into a top-notch user experience. In addition to this, Jakub is also oversees all company's design-related endeavors and manages and mentors a team. Let's welcome Jakub Sroka in today's episode of Smart City Navigators podcast. Hello, Kuba.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Actually, I heard a lot of very good words about you, about your design, about your creative work.
Thank you very much. That's very flattering.
So, Kuba, let's start from the beginning. And the first question is, why do creators, they seem to don't like meetings?
Okay. First of all, it's not like someone may assume that they are some kind of, antisocial nerds, and that's why they don't like attend the meetings. That's in most cases probably not true. I believe that's because the nature of the tasks that creative people like programmers, designers, writers, etc. The nature of those tasks is that they usually need some deeper focus, and they require like heavier chunks of focused time, and that's why if someone throws in a meeting in the middle of such a focused session, it may affect the whole day even for those people. If we imagine that we have, for example, like half of a day to plan, and we have it planned like that it starts with 90 minutes of work slot, then there's 1 hour meeting, and then there's yet another 90 minutes slot for work. That's, in my opinion, the least optimal way of planning, because effectively for a creative person, for the creator, this kind of setup costs them effectively more time than only the 60 minutes of the meeting, because obviously they need to devote some time in before the meeting to at least familiarize themselves with the topic and the agenda of the meet. But afterwards, also they need some time, and the time depends, but it's always needed some part of it to regain focus, to switch context to what they have been doing previously before the meeting, and effectively in some extreme cases, it may result in this half of a day, creative person wouldn't achieve anything more than just attending a meeting, because the rest of the time will be just destroyed by this bomb that landed in the middle of the time slot.
Very often the creative person, they say if they are in their zone, in their flow, they don't want to interact with anyone. But sometimes, as you say, and as your work is, you have to do some meetings anyway.
This was the very simplistic example, but we can extrapolate it to more realistic one. Like let's, for example, extrapolate it over like a quarter of work. So I believe that, for example, like a software architecture for some application or some feature of the application, I believe it can be done in scattered parts of time throughout the whole quarter, let's say. I believe that all of our programmers that are listening to us, as well as the programmers that we have on board, will agree that such a strategic and heavy part of work, like outlining software architecture for some piece of software, is just impossible to be done in scattered small pieces of time. It demands couple of substantial longer like you said, being in the zone for like longer hours consecutively.
Yeah, and in the creative process, it's very often we cannot measure that in time. If you are in the zone, sometimes it's like a couple of hours and you just pop up in your head that you didn't eat for the last 3 or 4 hours, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why some creative people, when they are deep in the zone, they tend to, at least be late for some meetings because, they just miss the reminder that is like 10 minutes before the meeting, and they are running late to the meeting because of the the urge to finish up this focused slot.
Yeah, and the attendees on the meeting are getting angry.
yeah, but overall, it's something that we, at least in the IT industry, we need to cope with because in the IT industry, I believe that we have like a pretty high ratio of managers to creatives in a broad sense. So I believe that the IT is one of the industries when this is the most apparent, this dichotomy between those two types of perceiving a calendar, perceiving time.
Yes.
So let's start with a question. How do you, like, stereotypically in a first association, do you imagine how people who is in charge or a manager, how those people work? Like the first association, because this is always the most on point one, I believe.
They have a lot of meetings. They have very hardcore schedule during every single day. They have dressed very well. They have to be dressed very well, and they have zero extra time, like zero free time for creative things, for leisure, for relax. They have a strictly schedule and they are stick to it. That's my first opinion.
In general, people who manage companies, who manage teams, usually work really well under this schedule because what they do is very very high level, and they have, like, of course, a great overview over strategic things. So they are able to usually make everyday decisions, like on spot, like on the meeting or right after, and then delegate the groundwork somewhere down in order to be able to switch context, go to another meeting, and repeat the whole cycle. And that's the main difference between creators and the managers. The people who are in charge are obviously always managers, even if they come from like a technical or creative background. They are now like a full-blown managers, so they work well on this schedule, and those are the people who start the companies, right? Naturally they assume that the most natural thing for those companies to run is the maker's schedule. So like 1 hour slot, and they naturally expect everyone to fit this, because as we have already mentioned, I believe, this is very natural. This is like a second nature to them, and they assume that everyone feels as comfortable as they are in this kind of regime. And both of those schedules, the creative one and managerial one, on its own, they work pretty well for those kinds of people. And the problem emerges when we try to clash those two. If managers need to meet with some programmers, with some copywriters, designers, and those people, managers, are in their regular schedule, so that's natural to them. But those creatives are kinda drawn from their focus zone, and that's why the problems with scheduling are starting to appear, actually.
When I think about creator, I think about the man who's in his zone and he's creating all the time. There's not so many space for stress up there. But manager, he has to manage everything. And what about stress?
Well, I think that this is perhaps some different kind of stress, because this is kind of a stereotype that is very outdated. I would say that that all of those creative people are always their heads is somewhere up there in the sky. They are kind of dreamers, and the truth is that the creative industry, no matter if it's programming, design, or whatever else, it is industry, and it is majorly filled by professionalists. So those are the people who, of course, have different needs regarding the calendar, regarding planning their work, but they have also their own stress regarding this work. And this is not like you have like a stereotypical painter that sits somewhere in the park and paints some landscapes. And this is not the kind of being in the zone that we are talking about here. We are talking about people who really accomplish a lot in a very effective way, usually. But this is, the kind of the mode of work differs for those people. But what is a common ground for both managers and creatives is that on the both sides they are highly qualified professionals, but from the different sides of a coin, let's say.
Of course, it's just the illusion that those two roles of people, managers and creators, they just separated. They're very connected, like you said. There's no clash inside. What you can say from your experience, because you are a creator and a manager at the same time, what you can say to maybe even to younger generation, how to deal with that?
I would say that the first and the most major tip is to kind of batch your types of schedule. So if you can afford within your organization, or if you are a freelancer, to have like a day or two without calls at all, I would definitely advise to go for it 100%, because this seems like the most optimal solution for the sanity.
And it's possible.
Well, unfortunately, in my position, I'm not fortunate enough to spare like a full day without calls too often. But what I do is like predefining in my calendar for the upcoming week at least 2 slots for focused work that are like 3 or 4 hours long, and of course, according to the agenda of the week, I move those slots around, but I try to keep them intact in order to fulfill my managerial chores as well as deliver designs and creative stuff on time. Of course, calls are important, but having being one leg in a managerial world and one leg in a creative world, you have responsibilities on both sides. So if I wouldn't prevent calls, interrupting my focused work slot, I wouldn't be able to deliver my deliverables, like designs, app screens, flows, and everything that is, at the end of the day, like the fruit of my labor. But yeah, extreme on both sides is of course dangerous.
But it's manageable.
Yeah, it is manageable. It's not easy. That's for sure. Yeah, I don't have a space to manage like a full day without calls very often, and that's because we are working with MENA region, where work week starts on Sunday and ends on Thursday. So we have effectively 4 days within the week, and this is one of the factors that prevents me from having the full day, because if on Friday, for example, our MENA team is having a weekend, we have a time to catch up with Polish, let's say, topics, and so Fridays are also the usually days that are full of calls. For some people, what works very well is dividing certain parts of a day to certain type of a task. So there are people who like to work on those creative tasks in the mornings and leave afternoons for the calls, or vice versa. for me personally, I don't have any. I'm not partial into focusing more in the morning or in the evening. So I'm just very flexible in terms of that. So as I have mentioned, I move my focused work slots around in order to be flexible to fulfill the meetings and then fulfill the creative tasks.
But is it possible to, let's say, to split the day in half, and first half is your creative part, and then you have meetings?
Yeah, I believe it's possible, but all of the tips that we are trying to generate here today are boiled down to what your organization or the company you are working for allows for. Because if you are not the only person in the company, so you also need to think about adjusting to the schedules of other people's, and sometimes there is no option than meet in the morning, for example, right? So in that case, the plan of dividing a day into two halves for separate types of tasks is not going to work. But if it works for you, this is some technique that a lot of people successfully implemented to their calendars, and it works very well for them. And there is also this rule working very well for some people, and I believe this is called 4-hour rule, and it's been introduced by former chief software architect of Microsoft and HP, I believe, and he used to say that if he's not sure if he will be able to spare full 4 hours for coding, he's not even starting. So yeah, this is like a rephrase of what has been said previously, that if you can afford, following the 4-hour rule for your schedule, then I would definitely also advise to at least try it, because it sounds very, very reasonable in terms of marrying those two types of calendar.
Nice. Any more tips?
Well, I would say that this is maybe not a tip about merging those two types of schedule, but this is like a general ability that every professional that has limited time should have, is to learn, or at least have a team leader above that is able to do that, is estimating how much time certain task will take you, and the more accurate you will be with estimating, the more efficient will be your planning, because it comes with experience, and until you plan at least couple of hundreds of sprints for yourself or your team, you won't be able probably to do that very, very effectively. But it comes with time, and it is from my perspective, it is a foundation of an efficient planning, in general.
I have one conclusion after this entire episode. Let's say we have a manager role, and the manager is looking for some creative stuff, and you connecting those two things, like creator stuff and manager stuff. Maybe the manager role is looking for some creative activities just to recalibrate his brain. And then when you switch to creative mode, you just regulate your nervous system, and then you can easily switch back to manager. And then maybe it's some kind of loop, which is a very healthy loop for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Are you referring to managers having a creative hobby in order for them to get a taste of how creative work looks like?
Yeah, it might be like that.
Yeah, it might be like that. And I would, if I were to recommend, because I'm a fresh learner in programming as well, I have started on January to learn some programming in order to broaden my horizons a little bit. And I would advise that to everyone, because I believe this is a skill that this is an insight, to be honest, that every IT manager should have, and maybe they will be then more aware why on the IT side, on the programming side, things first of all, why they demand so much focus and why they seem to sometimes last that unreasonably long, because once you get a taste of that and you get at least touch the surface on how complicated all of this programming world is, you will be probably more sympathetic to programmers work in general.
Yes. Okay. So thank you for today's episode.
Thank you very much.
See you at the next episode for Smart City Navigators.
Yeah, and hit that bell icon. I just always wanted to say that at the end of the video.
Yeah, hit the bell icon on the bottom of the screen.
Thank you for being with us. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Smart City Navigators podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Join the conversation by leaving a comment and sharing your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, in which we'll do another deep dive into a topic related to innovation, sustainability, and new technologies. See you next time.